It's my great pleasure to introduce John today. John Price is COO of SchemeServe, and he's going to talk to us about how we can get more out of what we're doing, both in relation to actually putting in and also stopping, I think, some of the bits that we lose from the system. So I'm going to say no more. John, over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Hello, people. Let's start with something like this. So I'm pretty sure that's the first time we played Family Fortunes inside the Lloyd's building. But I use it to refer back to a survey that the MGAA did back in December when you asked 100 people, actually I think 75 responded, about what factors you thought were affecting the growth of the MGAA sector this year. And I've just picked out a couple just to illustrate some points. So overwhelmingly, the soft market conditions basically, we're finding it harder to sell stuff. There's more people out there. We've got a whole load of regulation and compliance issues that are going on this year. I'll talk through in a little bit more detail. And a whole load of stuff to do with technology being out of date or the way we can improve our technology. There is a fourth one, which I'm not going to talk about today. I'm not going to use the B word at all here, instead of hearing about it, so we get rid of that one. Right, so a little bit about me. You might wonder who I am. Well, my name is John Price, and I've spent a long time, since I was at school, actually doing some of this stuff while I was still at school, working with lots of different companies, predominantly technology stuff. Started off as a programmer, got involved with Microsoft fairly early on, did a lot of the Windows product launches and some of the other server launches for Microsoft, did some stuff for the Bank of England. I was involved with chip and pin when it got introduced into the UK. I was involved with the euro conversion when they first introduced the euro. Across Germany primarily we did the interface with. Whole load of different stuff. But for the last 6 years, maybe 6 years, I've been working for a company called SchemeServe. You may know SchemeServe. You may have seen us wander around in purple top hats. That's the way people normally remember SchemeServe. How many people have seen the top hats? Yes? Here we go. So SchemeServe is an online platform for agents, MGAs, insurers, to be able to manage all their schemes, scheme-based stuff. It gives you the full life cycle, all the way through from direct schemes to stuff managed by the agents, all the way through with MI, all the way through to the MGA and to the insurer and beyond. Okay, we can talk more about SchemeServe hopefully later. Ed in the front row here is one of our sales guys, our business director. I'm sure we'll have a conversation with you later if you want to talk about that. So that's SchemeServe. Let's go back to our list of the various different things we thought we'd talk about. We'll take them one at a time. Let's start with regulation and compliance. So, a number of different things at the moment. Let's start with an easy one you probably all should have done by now. As of 4 days' time, you should have it so that on renewals of invoices going out to customers, you basically tell them how much their last year's premium was, and if it's older than 5 years, you have to basically tell them that they might find it cheaper somewhere else. Stupid rule, right? But nevertheless one we have to accommodate. Hopefully everybody in this room has got that sorted now. If not, I think you've got 4 days, as I said, to get it sorted. Distribution directive are coming in next year, irregardless of the B word. We'll type that one there. It's a European directive that will almost certainly adopt to basically bring in line some of the consumer protection stuff in line with the rest of the financial service industry. Some bits and pieces happening around there. Details are still being finalised out. They haven't really made their mind up what they're going to do with it yet. But we'll have to look at that probably later this year. Ogden has been in the news a lot recently. They've decided to change the rates from 2.5% to minus 0.75%. Everybody do payouts, personal injury policies? Can talk to me? Nobody? No? Okay, right, we won't talk about that one anymore then. Nobody does that. The base actually means the payouts have to be a lot more. Outsourcing arrangements are changing. Not strictly regulation, but very highly recommended guidelines from the FCA about what your technology needs to be in terms of resilience, how well it's backed up, how well you cope when there's a failure of that technology. Primarily, I suggest, driven by the SSP issues earlier, end of last year, but it means everybody's looking at it in a lot more detail. Needless to say, I can tell you what SchemeServe's ones are now, and you'd start me on that topic and I wouldn't shut up for the rest of the session. So I won't go there, but by all means ask, and I can talk about that in quite a lot of detail for you. And then we have the general data protection regulation stuff that's coming in mid-next year. And this is more about making sure your data is secure, backed up, protected, being used for the right purposes, not being sold to people you shouldn't be selling it for, all that sort of set of rules. ISO 27001, which is a lot about data protection inside server areas, and lots to do with access protection to the boxes and things like that, is very, very closely tied to that regulation. And I'm not sure most on-premises software will be able to comply with that, mainly because of the access to the physical servers. We was in a client on Friday, and their servers with all their customer data was basically a box sitting in the corner of the office, which means I could go and get to it, which means that you can't comply with 27001. So then you have to start looking at whether the cloud is the right solution, or more secure premises, or other ways of protecting that data. The stuff going on for the London markets, the TOM referred to us, and they've been involved in writing line slips for. Okay, right. Yes. Yes. Okay, so that's all about moving the data around between the individual brokers or the agents without having to rekey it over and over again. Primarily to make that part of the Lloyd's operation slicker. With one of its key features being that you only put the data in once. But I think that should apply to everybody and not just within that particular set for the business. Yeah? We'd like to have clients possibly entering data directly online, or certainly the agents putting data in, and be able to get that flow of data from the agents through to the MGAA, through to the insurer, without anybody having to rekey a whole load of stuff in between. Yeah, change the formats as it goes if we have to, but generally you don't really want to have to be doing the same sort of stuff over and over again. We talk regularly at Microsoft about 70% of the data we see being entered into a computer system came from a computer system. So it just seems like an awful lot of work that we key in over and over again. And it also means that you can provide portals for your agents, let them rebrand it for their own purposes, things like that, all without you having to basically do anything in between to have to rekey and regenerate that data. So I think that's a regulation. Anybody else got another regulation thing that think is a problem for them this year? You can talk to me. You are there. So we come back to the soft market conditions, which basically means, nobody wants to buy anything. Yeah, everyone wants to sell everything. Yeah, it's harder the buyer's market is the word I'm looking for. From that survey, the MGAA survey I mentioned earlier, there was a reference that 63% of you expected there to be more MGAs in the next 3 years, like it said. And on top of that, 60% were saying that you expected there to be mergers as well. So does that mean we got more bigger competition? Yeah? So if it's hard now, it's going to get harder to sell stuff, to make yourself different. Anybody here do anything direct? I think you probably all do it stuff for our agents. Nobody does anything direct to customers. Okay. So I was at a meeting for a load of insurance agents in Coventry. User group, 10 or 12 people there. We meet every couple of weeks. And I mentioned one of the guys that was coming to talk here today. And one of the comments I got was, I get an email every week from some MGA or another wanting me to sell their products. Yeah? And they're all fairly boring and unremarkable, and I don't see why they just keep sending me all these emails. So certainly for him, yeah, it just seems like that MGA or whoever it was that was trying to sell him stuff is just blanket blasting. I don't know, we just want to sell it. Anybody want to buy it? Want to sell my product for me? Yeah, not really any thought behind that. So then I start thinking about how do you choose which agents are going to you'd like to sell your products. Okay, yeah, they're not all the same. Whatever the matrix will tell you, they are not. So how do we decide what agents? I thought of a few ideas. By all means, tell me some more. You might choose by business sector. Yeah, you're looking to sell builders insurance. You want to find that's one business sector. You might decide that you're looking at the country and you'd like to sell some product in a particular location. If you're going to do yacht insurance, you probably need to sell something probably in Portsmouth and Southampton. Yeah? Setting one up in Coventry is probably not that good a good idea. Okay? So we've got location. What else could you might decide it by? Track record. You might look at various agents and say, they're selling lots of policies. Their claims ratio is fairly low. They're doing okay. Maybe they can sell our product as well. But what it seemed to me, based on that previous comment, is that anybody that asks, we'll let them sell the product. And anybody going to be honest enough and own up to being that last category? No. Certainly the guy that I talked to in Coventry thought that particular MGA was. So it needs to be focused on how do we choose an agent and not just blanket blast them everywhere. Anybody think of a different way you might choose an agent? No? Yeah, existing relationships. If you can exploit that relationship, so much the better. That's a good one, actually. We'll use that one a bit later. I thought, what else can I add? I thought, depends. Same as all these answers, isn't it? All the answers, it depends, works for everything. So, let's try an example. You wouldn't, if you had a Schwarzkopfski crystal iPhone, you probably wouldn't find it on a market stall. That tells me that you probably would, actually, because all the plastic fake ones out there. But it's not a match. Likewise, you're not going to find a One Direction T-shirt in Prada. Yeah, I hope. I think like I reduced the price to 95p and still can't sell it. So those products are just they're the wrong place to sell that product. So then you start thinking about what types of products might even loosely be connected together. Yeah. Now, obviously, this is open to interpretation. I'm thinking that caravan insurance and car breakdown insurance seems to be a reasonable connection there. Camping insurance, tent insurance, gadget insurance, all that seems to be the same sort of type of person that might buy that. Likewise, if you've got an agent selling trailer insurance and stuff for horse boxes, then maybe an equine or vet bill insurance might seem to be a match for that type of customer as well. What you're unlikely to find is high net worth property owners insurance and somebody selling tent insurance. That seems to be a dismatch. I suppose again it's the opinion, isn't it? It depends on the tent. But it's unlikely to go together. Incidentally, while I was looking for pictures of a posh tent, I did come across this picture of tent. I thought, what would happen if SchemeServe did tents with the purple top hats on the top? I can't believe that people do that, but I thought it was an interesting picture that I just indulged and stuck it in there. So now you've got your agents, and you have to decide now how do you give them some tools. You could just say, here's your delegated authority, get on with it. It's probably not going to be the best return for you. So you need to give them some tools. So you might give them, sales brochures is an easy one to put on a list. It's probably not great because it just costs you a lot of printing costs and they give them to everybody. But you could do that. Window stickers, car stickers, having cars wrapped to advertise the product, particularly depending on what product it was. Various different personas. Best for insurance. So you tell your brokers what type of customer your insurance is going to be best for. So you might say, pick car insurance. You might say, this product is good for lady drivers, 40 to 50, do less than 5,000 a year. And that might be when your price, it's going to be your best price probably. It's going to be your best claims target. That sounds the wrong way around. It's a claim, but the best ratio for hitting your claims. Yeah. Whereas if they try and quote that motor product for an 18-year-old male who's still at college, it's clearly going to make you look uncompetitive, and you could then end up with a reputation for being generally uncompetitive, and it's because they're selling the wrong product. Easy access portals, we've talked about that already, making sure you can get to that data. That they're putting so you can watch what quotes they're doing. You can deal with any referrals that come to you in an easy way. You might want to offer them some training on how to sell your particular product. I've seen examples of, it was an equine product if I remember, where there was a particular feature that made them stand out, but they didn't advertise that particular bit very well. They knew it was there, but they didn't make their brokers point that out to their customers. So therefore it made their product look uncompetitive and ordinary compared with everybody else. You might also want to teach someone how to market your product. At that point, putting your product out there if they then don't also promote your product in the way that you would want it to. If you imagine, Mars Corporation, decide how Mars bars are promoted by giving sharp edge stickers and all that sort of stuff. So you might want to keep control of your brand and make sure they are promoting it in the right way. And also very useful is, anybody actually phoned one of their agents to ask for a policy? Anybody checked on their agent to find out what they're actually telling them about customers about your product? Yeah? Nobody? Okay. That might be a good idea to make sure that they're passing on that information and promoting your product in the right way, because otherwise you don't know. For all you know, they're saying, nah, don't bother buying that product, it's not very good, buy this one instead. Lots of other different ways I can think of you could promote stuff. Don't really want to read this list. Pick up one as an example. If you do insurance for student accommodation, go and pay for a whole load of pizza boxes to be printed with your logos on the top. In fact, most of the pizza shops locally will like that, and you've got that product in front of everybody, including your right target audience. Lots of others. Happy to talk to those in detail later if you want to. So then I started thinking about what else are these agents doing that might interfere with your sales, interfere with you making any money. So I refer to that as sabotage within the business now. Trying to work out how to describe sabotage. None of this is intentional. They're not deliberately setting out to wreck your business. It's a bit like trying to come up with a reason why you were late to work this morning is because the cat decided to mess with the clock. Let me tell you a story to illustrate this. This was at a convention. It might have been the motorhome. I have a motorhome at the NEC earlier this year. And there was a stand with people giving out some cards. They were trying to get people to refer their business to them. So they were at the convention. They had some nice cards designed. They were presenting them on a nice silver tray that the cards were set out on it. Perfectly valid way to build their database. There was an offer, a very tempting offer. I know alcohol was involved, so there's always a tempting offer. Seemed perfectly reasonable, but then they had none of the cards being filled in. And you could sit and think, well, nobody wants to take one of these cards. And I think, well, hang on a minute. What happens if you don't give them a pen? Yeah? So that's like spending all the money, doing all the work right, getting all the branding stuff sorted, and then screwing up at the last minute. Yeah? I can't resist going and telling these people stuff, so I have to go and point this out to them. Why don't you put some pens out? And none of the staff seemed to know an awful lot about the product anyway. So when I questioned what their product was about, they didn't know it. Probably they'd hired in some event staff to give the cards out, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that bit. But at least make sure they've got some understanding of why they're doing it. Because I suggested that exhibition, that company was made to look pretty stupid, to be honest. So that's what I mean by sabotage, is things that people are doing within your business, not deliberately, but undermining your ability to do your marketing to sell the stuff as you would want it sold. So you need to make yourself stand out. Yeah. Remember that more bigger competition we talked about earlier? So how do you make yourself stand out? Yeah, so that your product gets sold at the end of the day. Okay. I find myself thinking about whenever I stop using a company, it's all because their service is not very good, yeah? Or I find them bland and boring and impersonal. And then I realised I was talking to an insurance conference and thought I'd better take that bit out. Because I know here you're not all bland or boring here. So you have to think how many times you touch and come in contact with the customer. Now, I know you might say that, yeah, you're one step removed, you've got an agent in between, but there's nothing stopping you having some contact with that customer. Because if they forget about you, particularly at renewal, yeah, then that's when your money starts coming in. So one way to make yourself stand out is to become much more targeted. Yeah, very specific groups of people. I've used something over and over again. I haven't found anybody that can tell me why this doesn't work, but nobody's doing it. What would happen if you took a cul-de-sac, small group or street of houses, and did all the insurance for that very, very small sector? Yeah? Now, okay, you might get stung if you do flood insurance, because either none of them or all of them are going to get flooded. Yeah, so that's one reasonable reason. But yeah, you very, very narrow market. You get the car insurance, the house insurance, yeah, the medical insurance. You'd know everybody. Yeah, so you'd be able to work out probably preferential rates for them. You'd know if somebody next door had an accident. Yeah, I don't know. In my head, how that model works. I'm not sure it works in reality because nobody seems to have done it. But
car insurance, and what people are bought by many are doing it with big groups that they're pulling together, but not specifically for housing in certain areas, but they're going into certain demographics and doing kind of social selling.
Sure, we were talking to someone that does mobile home, big caravan insurance, a couple of weeks ago, and they were giving discounts and stuff to the association that run the park. So effectively, everybody on that park is highly likely to be taking that particular piece of insurance out. And that just seems like a way of being able to give probably the best customer service you're ever going to get, because you almost certainly know the people. Anyway, that's just me. Other ways in which you can go beyond the obvious and be extraordinary. Two stories, I'll tell you. One about the ice scraper. So this was a company that had a whole load of ice scrapers printed with their contact details, the insurance company, with their contact details and web address, telephone number, all that sort of stuff on. And they had these ice scrapers made in July, and they distributed them to all of their agents and brokers, right, with strict instructions that says, the first morning of the first frost, everybody get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go and put this on as many cars as you can. Yeah? And that's what they did. Yeah. Got to sort of late October, and a whole load of people went out and put 2,000 odd scrapers on cars across various different locations. Because we've all done that, haven't we? The first morning there's frost. Nobody ever keeps their ice scraper in the car for that first morning. You always have to go hunting for it or sit and defrost the car for 5 minutes. Right? So they got themselves looking extraordinary because nobody else would have done that. Day 2 of the frost is pointless because everybody's now found an ice scraper and put it in the car. Right? But that was just a little bit of effort and a little bit of planning, didn't cost very much money, to get themselves into lots and lots of cars and be mentioned about to all the people that were told them about. Yeah, imagine that guy at work turning up and saying, well, ice scraper has been given to me by this. The second one, the rainy day picture, is something that happened, can't remember what it was, end of last year. I was talking at an event in Bristol. Remember that there was a whole load of floods that happened towards the end of, or beginning part of last year. Yeah, massive floods, all down in the southwest. And this was like, the floods were on like the Saturday, and this was like the Monday or Tuesday I'm doing this tour. And we were trying to find out, okay, how could you use an event like that to stand out? Okay, so you find that these type of events, don't you? You always find like, there's news articles that tell me when it is every day. There's no date, doesn't matter. But there was a whole load of news articles and stuff going on about where many places been flooded and in Devon and in the southwest and things like that. Yeah? And there was an awful lot of pictures of typically army guys or things like that helping block roads and things like that. What reaction do you think it would have been if those people that put the ice scrapers out went and helped the army that morning? in the local area. You've got the TV coverage that we got and the press coverage, let alone you then put it on the side of all the vehicles and all the cars and all your brochures. Right? Yeah, that would make you stand out way more above everybody else. Right? I'm convinced nobody did it because it was a Sunday. Right? In fact, what I went through, I went back through Twitter, and I went back through Twitter looking for when the last time I could find an insurance company of any sort, right, said anything about floods, publicly. Right? And I got back as far as August 2014 before I found somebody. Right? So that just seems like another huge opportunity to be different to everybody else. Yeah? And not just do the same as everybody else. Needs a little bit of planning. Yeah? Go and get 200 sandbags made. Right? But it'll happen again. And nobody will take advantage of that huge marketing opportunity, I think. Yeah? And you're out there helping. You're generally doing some help. Instead of, we all say we are helping, as insurance companies, we're happy to help, and we do the best we can. But when it actually comes to it, there's usually very little evidence that we do so. Okay, so there's that. So going back to the survey we talked about earlier, there are 3 points about it. We ignore regulation and compliance, right? Because most of you all like to moan about it. There's not a lot we can do about it. We just have to pretty much put up with it. Soft market conditions. Yeah, there's massive of opportunities, I think, to stand out and be different to everybody else. Choosing the right agents, getting the agents up to speed, making yourself stand out in social media and in the local community. And then as far as out-of-date technology is concerned, and the issues those face, should have used one of our products. I'm sure we can talk about that later. Okay, thank you for your time and attention. I don't know whether the MGAA collects feedback normally.
Yes, we will. Yep.
So I've made this offer to four sets of audiences so far. And what I've said is, get me some feedback. You'll do that via the MGAA. I guess to me, if they've got contact details, I'm quite happy to send you a copy of our e-book that's got a whole load of different points in it that we've talked to them very briefly today through. But I've also said, if you send me some feedback, then I'll send you a bottle of wine. Out of 3 audiences, how many do you think have actually sent me stuff? Right? So I'll make the offer again, and we'll see if anybody actually bothers to do it. Right? An example of everybody just being the same as everybody else. Be different. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much indeed, John. Excellent. Obviously, ladies and gentlemen, this is your chance to question John, but one thing I actually want to pick up, you talked about the rules of transparency and it's going to be a pain as of the end of the week. I actually want to echo what John said. The FCA said to me when I was in Liverpool last week that one of the problems that everybody's kicking up a stink was nobody bothered to go back and say, hey guys, this isn't going to work. We've currently got a couple of FCA, we've got the Department for Transport and FCA consultations out that end at the end of this month. And if you haven't responded, you need to. You can't sit there and moan saying, well, we didn't know it was going to go this way when they actually asked you for it. So it's on our side as well. So I fully accept that, John. And I think it's very much. The only thing that did worry me was you mentioned about the scrapers, and I get the argument. It's a great bit of PR, great bit of marketing there, but how do you actually monitor and measure the success of that? Because obviously there's a big cost to that.
Sure.
So how do you measure and actually bring that back in to say, well, was it beneficial?
Well, we can tell you that because the address on the scraper was a URL that was only on those scrapers. So we can measure those people coming back to that particular address. And the phone number on those scrapers was a phone number that was specific for that marketing campaign, so we can measure how many people called it. Yeah.
So there is a way. So it comes back to what we...
I could tell exactly how many people had called specifically from that scraper.
Yep. And that is a good way to actually monitor what you're actually putting out and seeing and giving the codes. Yep. So do those codes if you're doing that, again, to monitor it, to make sure going on. Ladies and gentlemen, this is obviously your session. So if you've got any questions, John will be delighted to come up with a solution or an answer or some free marketing advice.
Good afternoon, John. There's lots and lots of ideas in there, so for a lot of the businesses they're quite small, so obviously there's a risk attached to trying to work out which one's going to pay off. So what's the process to try and get to the right idea for the right business?
A lot depends on your sector. I'm going to use the "it depends" answer, which works for just about every time I've come across any question whatsoever. And it does depend entirely on what you do and where your people are. You say there's a lot of risk and a lot of cost attached to it. If I look at it from the end user, the marketing that happens at the agent level, it doesn't have to be a big expensive exercise. I've seen people do chalk markings on the floor and the pavement, pointing to their shop door before. That costs next to nothing. Printing pizza boxes, the example I gave there for somebody that does student accommodation insurance, is incredibly cheap. And print 200 or 300 boxes, just give them to the pizza store. They'll do the distribution for you. Right audience. Again, telephone number, URL, that sort of stuff, so you can track it, so you always measure everything coming back. So these don't have to be a lot of money. What they do have to be is a little bit thought of. Like the scraper one is a good example. Even if you only got 100 scrapers printed out, you would still get those 100 people's attention. But you needed to have that bit of planning in place to get them in the right places with the right people at the right time. So most of this stuff isn't very expensive, just needs a little bit thinking about. If I take it to the other extreme, this was not insurance. This was a car dealership. It was a Porsche car dealership. And what they did is they drove around with a Porsche and a transit van around a very affluent area while people were at work. And we parked the car on the drive, Porsche on the drive, and took photographs of it. And then printed out a leaflet that says, "Doesn't this look good on your drive, Mr. Whatever?" and put the car to the letterbox. And we've seen the sales jump 18%. Now, if you think they have to sell one car more, it's paid for that campaign. So what you have to think about is, how much does it cost 200 or 300 quid to print pizza boxes? What do I need to sell to get that money back? 2 policies, 5 policies? You'd be able to work out how much you can spend on the advertising is depending on how much money you get from whatever increase you're expecting.
It's interesting because, as John rightly points out, there doesn't need to be a huge cost at the outset. And I can certainly remember in a previous life, when I was training some of the motor people, I asked a very simple question: do you put on your proposal form, do you have a tow bar? Simply because the office was down in Southend-on-Sea. So if they've got a tow bar, they're towing something. It could be a caravan, it could be a jet ski, it could be a boat. Somebody else is insuring that, which means it's exposing our motor insurance. But then you get the option, the other side, when a very well-known business was insuring caravans, and nobody thought about insuring the cars. The car has to tow the caravan. And so you're actually, it doesn't take rocket science, you sit there and look at it again, but some of the simplistic things can generate a huge response. Absolutely. And that's good. We've got a great amount of innovation within our sector, and we should be actually driving that innovation forward and helping our preferred brokers to actually secure more business, which will come back to us, which I think is great. Any more questions from the floor?
I'll just pick up on that one a little bit further. The other option you've got as well around that, in terms of getting more information and checking which one of those works, especially if you've only got limited budgets, and something we use at SchemeServe very often is what we call A/B testing. A/B testing being the principle of doing lots of things, but the key part of it is making sure, as we said with the URL and the phone number, that you measure it. So actually, if you only did those ice scrapers and you only did 10 of them, as long as you were measuring it and could check how effective it was, you can actually try lots of different things. And we as an industry are, with actuarial data, we're all about analysing things. We're all about actually getting granular data and seeing what works, what doesn't, and what the end result's going to be. Yet so often, we fail to actually look that data up and actually be aware of it. For example, when John said about your agents, using a computer software to see exactly what strike rates you're getting from all of your agents and actually culling them. How many people actually regularly do a review of all the agents that they've got, get rid of the ones that aren't producing, actually look at the data and see exactly what risks they're bringing to you and see this client is always bringing, like we say, something with a tow bar. Can we offer a product to them that's specific? But I think doing lots of things but measuring them will give you the response you want without the massive cost.
Yeah, I'll add into that. I had a customer that dealt with trailer insurance, articulated lorry trailer insurance. And we said to him, why don't you just keep a voice recorder in your car, and every time you see a trailer, make a note of the registration number. You already know, you can find out who they are. Right? That's an option. Team up with your local fire and police departments and provide the free batteries for the smoke alarms when they go out. Yeah? So the good way of getting a whole load of people to come to you to an event, bring their dead batteries, swap the smoke alarm batteries. You've got a relationship with the fire department, so you get their credibility on top of your business.
Ladies and gentlemen, okay, we'll draw this to a close. Ed and John will stay with us. Please join us outside for the rest of the sandwiches and drinks, but in the usual manner, can you show your appreciation to John for an excellent presentation?